And let's see. I think we're live.
All right.
I just can't see it on my video channel yet. Hold on. I'm refreshing. There we are. Okay, cool. I'll just drop the links and I'll do the intro. Okay, guys.
All right.
So, yeah, we're going to try something different today. I'm going to try to do a draw and talk. And never tried that before. So it could be a total shit show. Uh,
All right.
All right, I dropped the link. Maybe if you guys can sort of drop links as well, that would be cool. And we'll get some people in here. And let's get this pony show on the road. Hey, our buddy Hiroje is here. Hello. That's cool. All right. Yeah, I'll just do the intro.
Cool.
So, salutations from the sixth side. This is Six Scale Combat, and we are talking Napalm today with KFC Jesus and his good buddy Mike. And these two guys, they're actually starting a sort of a comic publishing company as well. And yeah, maybe you guys can talk about that for a little bit. What's going on with comics, guys?
Well, we're working on a comic right now. It's going to be I don't want to say too much about it. I just want to say it's going to be edgy superhero nonsense to start off with. But it's called Atomic Man Productions. Mike runs the Twitter for it.
So we're basically we started out as kind of a independent technology company serving like the tech end of production. I started working doing consultation for like web design, landing pages for independent like film productions years ago. And then I kind of phased out of that when web design got to be a convoluted kind of field to work in, and went back to doing other IT work for my brother's company. But my intention was always to do in-house independent production and publication. And so we're kind of circling back to that now that Dell is working on Misanthropes.
Yeah, that's the working title.
Yeah.
I think I've shared some images online, but not a whole lot because
not enough, man.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't want to overwhelm people. It's getting really close to being done. I'd rather show a finished product.
Yeah, that's basically the same kind of philosophy we've had at AMP. Is we want to have we've got a platform to do publication and production, but we've been waiting to have before we got back into that. We're waiting to have our own content to produce. In the past, I've always worked helping other people produce theirs, mostly in post production, but. I've done some publication work as well. I helped a friend publish an audiobook, as well as like that.
Well, that's really interesting. So you guys are all really about sort of do-it-yourself. That's your outlook. The whole do-it-yourself.
Yeah, we don't want to. Yeah, we want to do it independently because I've tried working on other things for other people. Like I had a job for a while. Something I was going to do for a while was I was drawing a kid's book, and
all right,
I read it, and I was excited, like, oh yes, I'll help you, guy who I also work with at work. He was also my boss at a car wash, and that's all I'm going to say because I don't want him to ever. I don't want to deal with it. He's a crazy person. He's like, oh, I also you draw. I was drawing one day at work. Oh, you draw. I want you to do my kid's book. Oh, wow, that sounds great. Yeah, it's a Christian little kid's book, and I read it, and holy crap, it was bad. Like, it was, like, not even cringy, but it was just like, oh, Jesus. Like, the ending was this guy yeah, I'm going to say it because there's no way he'll ever listen to this because he's probably abandoned it, but it ended like this. They're all cat people, okay? So it's like anthropomorphic cat people, but not even like Garfield, like furries. So all these cat furries are all Christians, and at the very end, they're like, this guy says, hey, Yes, at the very end, it was like, "Oh, Charlie, your dad is no longer missing in action. They found him." And he's like, "Oh, wow, your dad's coming home. But before we go pick him up, we need to go to the church and pray and thank God for it." And I was just like, "What in the goddamn fucking?" I shut, and I'm like, "I'm not putting my name on this."
I'm pretty sure God hates furries, by the way.
Oh yeah, his favorite way to kill them is with car accidents. That's an old joke. That's an old ED joke.
Coming live from the city of Anthrocon too.
Oh yeah, Pittsburgh is a huge furry city. Oh God. Oh Jesus Christ in heaven above.
I drove past Anthrocon in a duck boat with my whole family, including my grandmother, and had to explain to my mother and my grandmother in front of my father and sister, who already knew what they were, what furries were, as we're driving past this convention center, and there's a parade of them walking past us in the crosswalk.
Well, see, the thing is with furries, I don't mind cosplay. Cosplay sort of livens up the convention circuit and this and that. But furries, to me, and yeah, I hope I do offend some furries, but also it has some sort of sexual undertone. And it's just, like the bronies, that also has sort of a sexual undertone.
My God. I can tell you.
It's just kind of creepy. And I think the community as a whole, so that's cosplayers, comic book enthusiasts, and people who collect toys, they sort of frown upon the furries. I think this is really hilarious, because
I'll tell you one thing. I'm too familiar with bronies. My wife ran the biggest furry on Facebook, and that wasn't actually an exaggeration. It was called Bronies United. And my wife is like, "Oh, I just want to start a group to talk to friends about this cute show I like." And it was just terrible. The whole experience was just awful. I remember getting, because I was listed as her husband or boyfriend or whatever on Facebook, I would get messages of people talking about the group, and sometimes it would just be a novel. It would be just like a short story of how horrible someone's angry because somebody said something about Fluttershy. And I'm just like, I not only do not understand, but I don't care. I would get these messages sometimes daily. Like, they're just taking it too fucking seriously is the problem. Sometimes people, it's like they start, like, I don't really care if you want to pretend to be a fox or a wolf or whatever, but there's a point where you have to say, like, there's other things in your life other than this. It's like, me and Mike were watching something last night about this dude who was obsessed with Pac-Man. It's all he would do is play Pac-Man. He would drive around in his car with a bullhorn, screaming Pac-Man at people. I really wish I could. It's a Fred Willard show.
Napalm bronies. Is that an idea? Or?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. My wife actually used to. You're kidding, but my wife used to draw pony stuff all the time. So I'm going to get her to draw that Napalm Brothers as bronies. Yeah, because everything has to have a. Because that was one thing that was really in 2010. Every single property had to have a brony thing. So now we have to have.
It just has to be like a magazine or a TV show you see in the background. A couple of scenes.
Sure, yeah. I'm going to write that into the comic.
Just get caught watching.
We're going to put that in. Napalm bronies.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Napalm bronies. I remember there's even for a while, there was a Duke Nukem pony that was put around that was kind of popular back in the day. And I remember looking at that and just thinking, who thought of this?
Can I just say for the people who are watching this stream, this whole thing might be seem a little pixelated, but this is actually one panel I'm working on, and I'm trying to fill in all these rocks. This is sort of a beach scene, sort of a cliff on an island, and I sort of have to liven up everything and do the rocks like multicolored. But if you really zoom in, and this is like, I don't know, 800%, yeah, it does get a little pixelated, but in the end, the product itself is going to be really smooth, and even more so because I did the previous books. I made it exactly to the size of the comic books in 300 DPI, but this one is actually in 600 DPI, so that the PDFs will also look really smooth. And yeah, that's just something I wanted to share with you guys.
Oh yeah, I think if it looks anything as good as the last book, you're doing fine. That was I really love the colors on that one.
Well, yeah, listen, it's just a continuation of the story. It's the second part of this three part arc, and of course, the art is evolving a little bit because previously I was just working conventionally, so that is non-digital. So for me, the first book was sort of a learning curve, getting to grips with sort of making this stuff digital. And yeah, I think I've got the hang of it now. After Napalm One and all of the Ashcan stuff I did, I think I'm actually I know a little bit more about what I'm doing. So yeah, this fucking Napalm 2 is going to be awesome, man.
I can't wait to read it. I recently reread the first one. I forgot how much I actually really liked it.
I have to say, man, I love it. I don't like making like comparative kind of comments.
Yeah.
But I had to say, this is what I feel like Hunter S. Thompson saw in his mind when he was like tripping. Like, this is how he just visualized the world. Style. I love that so much about it.
Well, that's a big honor because I'm a huge Hunter S. Thompson fan. Actually, yeah, I've been reading that stuff most of my adult life. And of course, it's a shame he's not here anymore, but he's also sort of a spirit animal, because of the gun shooting, you know what I mean?
The gonzo-ness of it.
It was sort of ambivalent regarding his politics because, of course, sure, Hunter was a bit of a liberal, but mostly he was pragmatic, and he was for sort of a pragmatic approach to politics. He tried to expose all of the bullshit that was going on back in the day with Nixon. And but yeah, he killed himself, and now his party, the Democratic Party, is doing even more nefarious shit than the Nixon administration ever could have done. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Hillary Clinton sending people to die.
Well, not just that, but now we have this whole new sort of media apparatus in social media and the internet.
Yeah,
and yeah, they are censoring. It's like the equivalent of book burning. Book burnings is going on now, and that's never a good thing. So I think Hunter would be really against platforms like Twitter, Facebook, just willy-nilly censoring people.
Oh yeah, it's so. I think I can't speak for him because he is dead, but I think he would.
I'm talking to him right now. This is exactly what he's saying.
Right. I think he would probably more align close to libertarian now with maybe not with some of the candidates in the past, but I think in the direction it's going now, maybe more so, just because it really is a kind of a throwback to liberal, like the early democratic beliefs of like, well, yeah, it's.
Listen, Hunter S. Thompson, this was a guy for the people,
Yeah,
Yeah.
like back when
and he would be totally against globalism, and the progressives are actually aligning themselves with the globalists today. And globalism means loss of jobs. It means less for everybody. It means poverty distributed equally. And yeah, that's just what it is. Globalism feeds the rich.
I love it when someone like talks about how great communism is and how much wonderful. And then I just think back to you ever see Moscow on the Hudson with Robin Williams? I just think about that's what
I haven't seen it, but what I know is they always say, it was tried, but that wasn't real communism. Okay, so tell me what real communism was. Pol Pot in Cambodia, was that real communism? Venezuela, where people are eating rats. Is that real communism? You know what I mean? North Korea, is that real communism? Tell me what real communism is.
Real communism is I don't know.
They'll say something like, "Oh, it's Finland." Oh, yes, like a country with a population of Rhode Island is able to survive with a pseudo-communist government that's still backed by a monarchy, and they've got the taxes. Yes, okay, you can give everyone free education in a country the size of a U.S. state.
Exactly. They say that, or they say Sweden, but things are not hunky-dory in Sweden. Sweden, I don't want to get this channel flagged, but Sweden has huge social problems due to their sort of government, and there's also a lot of censorship in Sweden. You know what I mean?
Oh my God. So much weird shit that gets banned all over the world. Like
the Chinese have a saying, and it's more like a curse to someone, and they say, "May you live in interesting times." And yeah, that's actually what's going on right now. We're living in interesting times.
Like I got, again, that this is going to sound like I'm going off topic, but I'm not. I got really baked, and I went on Twitter saying I want to be Prime Minister of Australia, and then the very next day they say that Australia is now banning the sale of hentai. So cartoon.
Well, that's the days we're living in. It's censorship is everywhere.
And I'm just thinking back to when I was a kid, when I could walk into even in the 90s, there were some grocery stores that you would just walk up, be like, oh wow, here's a issue of heavy metal, and try to convince your mom to let you buy it. And it was just, and that was all cartoon titties, because nobody cared really. Nobody in management were like, yeah, it's just a cartoon. And now it's like, oh, we cannot, no cartoon titties. We got to stop cartoon titties.
I've only recently gotten into manga a little bit. Of course, I saw larger productions like Akira and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And Ghost in the Shell. I was familiar with that, but I wasn't really familiar with the comics because, before the comics weren't translated into English, and it's only been the recent couple of years that those comics are actually being translated in English. But as a novice, what's the best titty mangas that I can get?
Cutie Honey. I highly recommend Cutie Honey because it's classic. It's from the 70s by the grandfather of all cool anime, Go Nagai, and it's about an android with big titties and a sword.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the moderator if he can look this up and maybe drop some links in the chat, if that would be cool. What do you guys think of Lupin? Lupin the Third. Do you like that?
We just saw Lupin the Third, the First in theaters. That was amazing. Fantastic movie.
This is because, like I said, I wasn't really into manga, but Lupin, somehow I got a VHS tape from a cousin that was actually living in Japan.
Really?
A sort of a videotape of Lupin.
That's amazing.
I forget what the title was, but that stuff was a huge influence on my artwork and
me too. I love Monkey Punch. I actually remember the day Monkey Punch died, the creator of Lupin.
Yeah.
I was at work. I work with I help disabled people, and I was picking someone up at the airport, and I was already not having a good day, and I just looked down at my phone. I get like news notifications for random bullshit, and I just flashed across my phone, Monkey Punch dies at night, and I'm like, what? I was trying. I was so
the early Lupin stuff. It's a lot of it is set in the late 70s, early 80s. So comparing it to Napalm, that's exactly sort of the time frame of all of this stuff going on in Napalm. Of course, I was a kid then, but I did live through it, so I sort of really have a feeling of what stuff looked like back then. Sort of the music, also. And in music, the amps were different. Nothing was digital. It had like real organic sounds. And in those early Lupin videos, you can really, with the intro songs, you can really hear that. I just think Lupin is really, really amazing.
It's really good. You ever heard of the Lupin? Did you hear of Lupin the Third, the First? It's the recent movie that came out.
This is like a total new movie.
Yeah, it came out. It was in theaters for one day. Okay. I don't know why they did it this way, but it was in theaters for one day. You had to like wait on a website to get tickets. We actually went there. There were maybe 5 other people there. And Mike, tell us what happened when you went to the manager asking for a poster.
I said, man, if there was any marketing material at all, I was like, it was a one day only thing, right? So if you have anything, can I please buy it? And he was like, man, if we had anything at all, I would give it to you. But they sent us nothing.
No, he's lying. He's lying. He put it on eBay. No. He was lying. I'm sure he was lying.
I would say that if it weren't for
the thing is, there wasn't even like they're supposed to put up a poster for the movie, right? Every movie they're supposed to have like a poster of some kind. When you walk in the theater, right? It's like, oh, what's playing? This, and this. They didn't give them the poster to hang up. And I corroborated with like other theater releases. It's like, yeah, they gave us
nothing.
The people Phantom just it's like called Phantom. I don't know what they're actually called, but there's some sort of like distribution company that they
Okay.
put their name all over it, and then they just kind
It
of.
wasn't even Phantom. It was like
Okay, so they took all the posters and they put them on eBay, probably.
Actually,
Right?
I looked and I was looking around on eBay. The only posters I could find are these little weird mini posters that look like they're not even theatrical sized. I mean, they're tiny.
Did you guys see the? I don't know if you guys collect toys, but I think Figure Arts did the main Lupin the Third figures. So that's the guy with the hat and Lupin himself and the one chick with the big titties. And those figures are amazing. I mean, they're really expensive. I think they're like $80 or something.
Oh yeah, I have two figure arts for another weird anime called Kinnikuman. I have Kinnikuman and Robin Mask, and each one was a Christmas gift from my wife.
Yeah,
and they were like they're $80, they're like $50 to $80 a piece. And
if those Japanese companies had any sense, they would really make distribution easier. You know, because there's a huge market for Japanese toys.
Yeah, there is a huge market for a lot of Japanese stuff. You're talking to a guy who, before Devilman was actually Devilman Crybaby came out. Before then, I was already a fan of Devilman.
Yeah.
And before like 2018, the only way to read Devilman was by fan translations, and it was because it's like this is like a classic. This inspired so much other stuff. We probably wouldn't have Spawn if it wasn't for stuff like Devilman.
Well, that's exactly what I mean. Like during the early 90s when I sort of came up in comics, there was nothing you could get almost no translations of Japanese mangas and all that stuff. The videos, they did dub and translate, but nothing with the comics itself, you know what I mean? And so this is a good development because now a lot of the comic shops that are left and did survive COVID and all that, they actually have the large sections of Japanese mangas translated. So that's really cool.
Yeah, speaking of which, I'm actually excited for this. I don't know if you're a Fist of the North Star fan, but we're finally getting another chance at getting the original manga in English. They tried in like 2004 or 5, but they didn't really sell well. So they only got like some of the series done, and the copies are like insanely expensive on eBay. But Viz is re-releasing it again. It's just like a hardcover, like manga style book.
Don't you guys think that eBay scalpers, they should all be executed in public?
Yes.
Oh yes.
Every single one. Every single one. And I have a. Oh, there was a podcast I used to listen to. I can't remember the name, but someone called in and pretty much said, yes, it's really easy to influence video game prices on eBay. It's easier than you think. People selling like, oh, it's a boxed-in copy of Super Mario World. Yeah. $799. Dude, why? No.
Yeah, it's retarded. It's really retarded.
That is too far.
You know, if you look at stuff that Hasbro's been putting out, the exclusive stuff for Amazon and for Target, for Star Wars, for instance, this stuff, it goes up online for like 12 seconds and then it's sold out. And then you find it 2 weeks later on eBay and it's like triple the price. So again, this is a matter of distribution. You know, if Hasbro would pull their head out of their asses and actually make these general releases, they would sell a lot more, because this is benefiting nobody. It's not benefiting the fans. It's only benefiting some of those asshole scalpers. You know,
Funko Pop collectors.
This is why, and this is a whole part
Funko Pop collectors.
Yeah, that's I feel like that, and this is
This is all part of like what we really want to do with AMP. Is I'm trying to make it less like a company and more like a coalition of comic book and other, not just comic book creator artists, but also other creators, animators, game developers, everything. To be independent creators and to kind of self-publish and make it like a more like a capitalistic approach to open resources. And you don't have to be communist to believe that that certain things shouldn't be controlled by, like, people think that they point to intellectual property as being, that's a symptom of blatant overruling capitalism. Nah, not really. Not when the only companies that can afford to do this and that are propping this up are the ones that are propped up by government and by having political influence and being part of an overarching system that's just
Well, there's a
bullshit.
thing,
But
you can have ownership over your IP and still be cool to your customers. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's
Yeah.
sort of
I believe that it should be more like, everyone is, you can publish through a company but still retain, ownership of your work. I think it's in the past it hasn't really been possible, and it's kind of becoming more so, but there's a lot of resistance. So I think it's possible to create a system in which people can publish as part of a larger organization, but it's not like that organization owns their content. Like I want to make it more like a I don't know, something between
you want to make it like a communist. Yeah, I'm on to you, man. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
I completely agree. I
I'll see
completely agree.
the Russian national anthem every morning. No.
right.
I completely agree. This is a good idea, but one real genuine hurdle you'll have to overcome, and that's all of the petty egos that are in the various industries. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's actually been giving. I've stopped looking at Twitter because it's like everyone gets mad at each other, and then the more I dig, it's like, oh, so you're just.
It's a complete shit show. You know what it is? Most people that aren't honest about it, they just sort of hop on whatever drama du jour is going on, whatever drama train is leaving the station, and they cause a ruckus only to get a little clout or to sell a couple of books or to whatever, and they just fuck people over for nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you want to start with some sort of unity, that is really something to look at. And unfortunately, this is human nature. This is sort of like what humans are like.
I think that unity has to mean like, oh, it's just share everything. Like oh, it's not the same. It's not, you can't apply political concepts to business. Like I believe relinquishing control of your IP, like any company that wants you to give all or most of your share of your content is not in your acting in your best interest. And
not only that, but in this niche world of indie creation, there's a lot of shenanigans going on where people sort of just rip off your IP.
Yeah. They do it under the guise of we're trying to make this better. We're trying to make an indie market. It's like, no, you just want to be the next. You want to say that so that you want to quote unquote disrupt the industry so that you can just take it over the same way. You don't even want to rebuild it. You just want to be the one in charge.
Well,
it's like
taking over the industry thing, that's just a guise, because people need a common enemy.
Exactly.
But once that is settled, then the truth comes out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And,
people want to be like. I think too many people try to think like, oh, I'm going to be the next Image Comics, and I'm going to go off and do my own thing, and it'll be great. Well, people forget that that a lot of those indie comics from the 90s was just rife with different sort of internal problems of books. I have a book by Indie Comic Press by one of the guys who created Lobo was actually involved, and the back of the book says, "We're so sorry this book is late."
I heard the artist. It was an artist who started Lobo, right?
Yeah.
I heard he didn't even like the character that much. He sort of made it as a poo-poo to the industry itself. And then turns out that the character became hugely popular. I think that's really funny, actually.
Shit, I bought a bootleg copy of the unfinished Lobo video game for Genesis. It's on my shelf.
I think Lobo is pretty much the Beastie Boys of comic industry because everyone thinks of the Beastie Boys as being this like kind of Chad party rock anthem. They're like, fight for your right to party, no sleep till Brooklyn, and all their most popular songs, not realizing that they're pretty much satire. I mean, fight for your
sure. Well, actually, they did
up.
embrace hip hop eventually, and real good influence in hip hop. But they started out as a punk band. Yeah. And then they sort of noticed that hip hop was taken off in more of the urban scenes. And they started doing that. But I think they really grew in love with hip hop. So I was a pretty big Beastie Boys fans right from the first album, License to Ill, and yeah, I mean, great stuff, man. Beastie Boys are great.
Yeah.
Were.
Remember,
Oh, yeah.
weren't they on Futurama?
They were. Was that after MCA passed away? I think that no, there was 3 of them. There were 3 of them on it.
Yeah,
I can't remember
the 3 separate. Out of your stuff, that's one of my favorite episodes of Futurama was when they just start singing about like, "Hey, welcome to this level of hell," and they're just the severed heads of the Beastie Boys in the future.
Shit, hold on, guys. Can you talk amongst each other about the Beastie Boys for a little bit, because I have to open up the door for the dog who's been shitting.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I remember getting into the Beastie Boys because of Guitar Hero. When I was a kid, that one No Sleep Till Brooklyn was like the best, my favorite song to do, because it was one of the easier ones to do at hard difficulty, because a lot of it is da, da, da. And I was like, oh, I'm so good at this video game. Thank you, Beastie Boys.
Yeah, they're great because they really are a perfect blend of punk and hip hop. They were the first to kind of do that style. They really were. He said they started out as a straight up punk band, and my parents actually saw them open for Madonna.
What?
In the 80s?
What?
Yeah.
What? Your parents together saw them?
Yes.
I can't imagine your parents doing that.
Yeah, they saw Madonna, and the Beastie Boys opened for her.
It's weird thinking of you. I'm sorry. It's just like your parents saw the Beastie Boys open for Madonna.
Yes.
Huh. Huh.
Yep.
Your parents.
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah, they go to a lot of concerts actually. Madonna is more their style than the Beastie Boys, but the Beastie Boys just happened to open for her that day. They listen to everything from Earth, Wind and Fire to Led Zeppelin. My mom likes
my mom actually was
like adult contemporary now, but my dad will even listen to like the Foo Fighters and stuff.
Okay, I'm back.
Hey
Nice.
man, you were talking about music our parents used to listen to.
No, God.
My dad actually saw the Beastie Boys open for Madonna. That's where.
Actually, my first concert ever was Run DMC and the Beastie Boys, and that was amazing. That was like my mind was blown. I think I was around 12 or 13 or something. And it was just that was incredible. That was incredible. But anyway, I want to say something to the people who are in the chat, if there are any people in the chat. Or people that are listening to this later. Now, today I was, in fact, to do a sort of promotional stream with John Del Eros. And that kind of fell through because he had a sort of a family calamity. I don't know exactly what was going on. But maybe, we can shift this to a later date. And of course, today I have with me Mike and KFC Jesus. We're excellent guests. And I actually want to ask them a question. So what drew you guys towards Napalm?
That's a fun story. It starts with me with a little bit of extra income looking at indie comics. I looked at a couple previous I had just started really getting like into Indiegogo comics because I was kind of burned on Indiegogo and Kickstarters because I was one of the original backers for Mighty Number 9, and I feel like that's all I have to say. And so I was like, oh, the Cyberfrog thing looks interesting, and I never gave to it because the guy spammed my newsfeed with Star Wars, and I had gotten exhausted of it. Yeah. And so
that's how Ethan got his fame, with the Star Wars. But that's another rabbit hole we shouldn't get into.
Yeah, I don't want to think about it anymore. I've already gone to therapy for that bullshit. I'm already smoking my fucking brains out. Anyway, I look around and I had already gotten a couple of things from the old label you were under, which we don't have to talk about. But
no, we can talk about it. I have some things to say about that anyway, so we can talk about it.
Yeah, so I read a couple. I think it was called Lone Wolf, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I noticed there was another campaign for. One thing that attracted to me was that the look of it was like a Grindhouse movie, looked like a 70s or 80s flick, and I'm like, yeah, this looks interesting.
The cover of Napalm 1
immediately, and so the cover caught me immediately, and I just donated to I'll buy this book. It's about how much I'd pay for an indie comic in the store, and I got it, and it blew me away. I really loved everything about it. I loved not just the characters, but the story was very engaging. I loved the action, and I wouldn't shut up about it to Mike for like a year until it got republished on Amazon. And I was like, without his consent, I had him I just kind of
I told him I wasn't going to read another comic until he finished Misanthropes. Like that was going to be the next thing I read. And he said, well, if we're going to be working on, the editing and story and everything, and we're going to do the production, I want you to read another comic. And if you wanted to make it an indie comic, he knew that this is exactly my style. Like I'm very into the military theme. I very nearly, I almost went into the Navy. That's what was my plan up until I turned 18. I won't go into detail of what happened, but after spending my life preparing for it, doing everything from karate and swimming to military summer camps. And
what, you wanted to join the SEALs? Did you want to join the SEALs?
I didn't want to join the SEALs specifically. I wanted to go to the Naval Academy. I wanted to. Roger Keyes was my hero. Just because I started off doing a report about him in high school, and I really got into it. I like the idea of going into like the kind of
foreign countries and blowing up shit.
I love the idea of being a sniper, but I also wanted to kind of see like both land and sea. So that's why I wanted to go to the Navy. But I planned on it up until I was getting ready to apply for college. I had everything in place to go to the Naval Academy. My parents were like, if you could get in, we'll let you go. That was their whole thing. They're like, we don't really want to, it's not our first choice. They wanted me to do business school or something more traditional. And they said, well, if you could, go into the military and then make a transition, if they thought, he'll be an officer or whatever, because I'm going to the Naval Academy, which really wasn't, what I was doing it for. But, it was nearby. We live near DC. So,
well, I have to say regarding, because you mentioned war comics, and this is really sort of a funny thing because Tony Sizzle, the guest artist, amazing artist, he keeps saying, I'm sort of the leader of war comics now. But of course, there's this military aspect to it, and I really think that all of the rifles and the gear and everything like that, I have a connection to it. So it should actually look like the stuff people are using.
Yeah.
But that said, the overall style is actually really loose, and it's more sort of urban and more sort of inspired, not necessarily by comic book artists, but just by street art and maybe a sort of lowbrow art.
Yeah.
So to sort of merge these two things together, it's sort of a risk I took, but I think it really panned out. People seem to.
I always go. I have a tendency to ramble. That's kind of exactly what I was ramping up to. Is that that's exactly why it appeals to me. Is because I didn't end up going into the military background. I stayed civilian, but it's kind of exactly my aesthetic. So I love it. It's perfect. So I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see the rest.
My one of the things that just drew me to it was because it says some like modern comics today can look like you walk into the store and look at DC and Marvel and they look kind of sterile. I don't know how else to say it, but they just look very sterile. Like there's like.
Well, it's formulaic, and I'll tell you why. It's because, of course, before people with raw talent were brought into companies, and they were allowed to sort of develop their style. But nowadays, you have all these institutes that actually teach people how to draw comics, and also for animation and just for commercial work. But the problem with this is that everybody looks the same. And these companies, they don't give these artists the freedom to sort of develop their own style. You know what I mean? And I think
I sort of started feeling that a little bit when I went to college, and it was kind of a weird transition when I went to taking art classes in like a liberal arts college and taking art classes in
art school is a hammer. Art school is an ideological hammer. And of course, they do teach you some skills, but I'm sort of allergic to art schools. I attended art school for a couple of semesters, and I'm very opinionated about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember it was just such a weird transition because it went from like going over like they were talking over Frida Kahlo, who was an interesting artist, but they spent so much time.
Yeah.
talking about her politics, and I'm like, I remember seeing and thinking, whoa, wait. She
Well,
made
I
a lot of. Can we go back
Yeah.
to like talking about her cool self portraits instead of?
Kahlo, of course, she was married to some sort of huge communist, and she had sort of a communist agenda. But this was not entirely what her work was about. Her work is very introspective, and it dealt more with sort of her past and sort of her developing as a human than it did about Communist Party talking points. So I'm
Yeah,
actually
that's
a pretty
what
big
they
fan of Frida Kahlo, but I understand what you mean.
I think her and her husband were Clone High characters, weren't they?
I think they are.
For relevant topic drop.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone likes Clone High now. I don't know what the hell happened. I'm still confused
it's the
by
reboot
that.
just hope I may or may not be happening. I haven't seen anything concrete on that, but I'm going to hype it up in hopes that it helps. I don't know.
I'd like to see it too, but it's just it went from it's one thing that's weird is being into something that you really liked, like it happened to me with Devilman. It's like, oh, I like this thing that nobody likes, and you wake up one morning and you just look at your freaking Facebook feed and like everyone's changed their profile picture to that thing you were talking about years ago, and you're like, the hell?
Well, the problem is not that the normies start liking stuff. The problem is they then try to change these IPs to fit their own stupid current day narratives.
Oh
And
god,
that's the main problem. You know what I
I
mean?
know I brought things up a lot, but I'm a big, huge Go Nagai fan. When Devilman first started becoming popular, there is a plot point where a character is gay. That's a main plot point. Well, not gay, but it's a character. A man is in love with another man who doesn't like him back, and people were complaining that not because there was a gay person, it wasn't gay enough for them. So I'm like, you do realize that this character is like, So
Personally, I don't see how being any sort of sexual preferences is relevant to a good story unless that's what the entire story is about. And now we've entered the era where, as a gay person or as this and that person, and then the story develops from there. But to me, it's not relevant. You can have gay. Actually, let's say we talk about the Aliens movies. That Ripley.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Ripley was a lesbian, but still, it's a great movie, and it wasn't about being a lesbian. You know what I mean? She's a very strong protagonist, and makes for a great suspenseful story. But how would her possible sexuality have anything to do with that story? But now it's the other way around. Now you're a lesbian, or first you're a person of color, or first you're this and that. And then the story is sort of a sideshow to that. And that's just a propaganda. And that's what you get with the long march through the institutions has now reached the geek culture. And we end up with a sort of demasculization and lukewarm storytelling. Yeah, it's just a fact.
I agree, but I would say I can understand it having something to do with the story to an extent, as long as it isn't the narrative. Like,
no, exactly. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If the story is about that, and you can make a really gripping story about that, I'm fine with that.
Or even just having it
It's sort of like
hammer it into every single IP and every single storyline.
Exactly.
That's not going to hold up. That's not going to stand the test of time. You know what I mean?
I like that there's a story I love called Fun Home. It's FUNHOME. It's by Lichdale, the person who made the Lichdale test, which is like that's a whole other feminist thing. But I feel like that's actually a really gripping, good comic book.
Yeah.
It's an autobiography, and I was like, wow, this is great. And I feel like people read that and thought, oh, instead of like making a really gripping story about someone's life journey, they're like, oh, I should write a story about a lesbian. And then
exactly. I mean, there's lots of great gay and lesbian stories. I mean, that Brokeback Mountain movie, that was pretty gripping, about two gay cowboys. Talk about
that was every joke in 2000.
But it's fascinating. Yeah. But to hammer that into, okay, so now, everybody's either you're a bad white male, or you're gay, or you're a person of color, and nothing else. There's no heroism. Heroism excluded only to minorities or something.
It's like you look at it. There was what's that movie? That Tom Hanks movie about the guy with AIDS. Came out like the
Shooting
90s.
Ryan's privates. No.
No, I swear
Yes.
it's a thing. It was if it wasn't Tom Hanks, it was some other big actor. It was a movie that came out in the 90s about a guy, and it was like that was back when it was like, yeah, so Harvey Milk and those types of characters. And it's like, oh,
I think.
this is about a real gay character, or like they're starting to make things about Alan Turing now, and it's like, oh yes, this is a real legitimate gay character that existed, and they're making that's a good story to be told.
Talk about Philadelphia. That movie was called Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yeah,
Philadelphia.
I should know that. I was born in Philly, and
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Philly cheesecake, man, or a cheesesteak.
Philly
That's,
cheesesteaks.
that's a great sandwich.
I feel like this is sacrilege for saying this, but I've had even better cheesesteaks outside of Philly.
I
still
dare
love-
you. No, okay. I believe you.
I mean,
I'll go to Philly.
I
and
make
say
a good
that.
Philly cheesesteak. It's cheese and steak. Of course, I just take a big piece of steak, just pour cheese on it, and then put toast around it.
I throw Tabasco on everything. Everything.
Tabasco sauce. I remember I used to drink that as a kid. I used to like to freak out my
Well,
coat.
that explains a lot, dude.
Oh yeah, I used to. I didn't realize this, but apparently, MS. I think speaking about that, I think I might have actually destroyed brain cells with the amount of fast food I've consumed. Like Mike was trying to explain to me that MSG isn't good for you because it screws with your brain. And I'm
no, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Not
For
just there's so much in that stuff.
So I'm thinking, around this age I was in college, I started not being as smart as I was in high school, and I was eating almost every day just General Tso's chicken from a mall, served in a mall, cheap Chinese food, and a dead mall that wasn't
I always
doing.
get headaches after Chinese food, and that's because of that stuff that they put in it, sort of the taste enhancers.
Yeah, I didn't believe that was a thing until Mike really sat down and explained to me. I'm like, oh wait, you mean I might have actually just killed tons of brain cells just eating nothing?
Yeah, and also
Talking about killing brain cells, what are you guys smoking currently?
Pot.
Yeah, but I mean, what? What's the brand? What's the
Oh,
variant?
Give me a second.
I do not have a Pennsylvania medical marijuana license, so I am abstaining from all THC and CBD products.
Yes, you are.
Del, why don't you tell them what you have, valid Pennsylvania card holder?
I
Hold
will.
on. Take the notes.
Mike, hold on 1 sec. Just gotta wrap.
Well, that's another thing. People. I know JDA, the guy who publishes the Napalm. Currently, of course, he's really conservative, and there's sort of a battle on Twitter going on now. Who's the most conservative and this and that? But I can speak sort of for JDA, saying, especially with stuff like pots and all that, I can disagree with him, and there's still mutual respect. So it's all about how you engage a person and sort of how you interact with them, to achieve a certain outcome. Of course, let's say I'm sort of a hardcore libertarian, hardcore in the fact that I do believe in more conservative talking points, but also I believe in a lot of progressive stuff. So I guess I'm just sort of a pragmatic. But
I think me and Mike both agree that this war on drugs was just not only just was a very harmful farce.
We've been
not just that, but it was total hypocrisy because it is proven now that the CIA was funneling in crack into the urban communities to fund their ideological wars in Latin America. It was guns for drugs, and that sort of sucks. That's not a good deal.
Culminating in and then just Obama administration just handing the cartels, hey, what would happen if we just gave them these guns? That's just there's no way that could possibly backfire, have any negative consequences whatsoever. Let's just go ahead and hand over these military grade weapons to the cartels, and it'll come back to us because we'll tag them, and then we can't trace drugs, but we'll tag the drugs when they send them through our smuggling tunnels. That's how we'll catch the cartels. Oh yeah, because they certainly aren't smart enough to do anything, just use them elsewhere or take the tags out. Yep.
Did you guys see the Narcos series on?
Yeah, we did.
I stopped watching after the first season.
I watched. I watched around. I watched it mostly because I worked at Sheets, and these people said oh look, it's Pablo Escobar, and I'm like, what? Like, oh, you haven't seen Narcos? I'm like, nah.
That's funny.
And it got to the point where it's like, no, I refuse to watch Narcos because like 12 people won't stop fucking calling me. I don't know why. It was just like getting like,
Paco.
Yeah, Paco.
What was it? Plomo or whatever. What did you say? Bullets or money? Money or bullets?
Yeah.
That's a good tattoo right there. Yeah.
You see, the thing is, I like Paco, but it's like people, like okay, like in
Pablo,
high school.
You mean Pablo.
Pablo.
Yeah.
I'd rather be the Napalm Brothers character that I'm looking at
Sure.
than Paco. But like Pablo is like a big drug lord, and it was like I always get compared to like a drug lord or like the villain of something.
I don't understand people that wear T-shirts with either Che Guevara or
I always thought that was funny.
Paco or Pablo, whatever his name is, Pablo Escobar.
And it's like you do realize he's like murdered people, right?
But not just murdered them, but tortured them for days on end. And I mean, like, hardcore stuff like electrical wires up the anus and all that stuff,
That's literally that's why I stopped watching it, because it literally went from being like, oh, this is a fascinating look at it, to, oh, this is just people once again like glorifying. It was the same thing. I love Breaking Bad. I love Breaking Bad.
Sort of vilifying the drug enforcement agency and all that stuff. Yeah.
It had the Breaking Bad effect of like literally.
Anyway, regarding Napalm, I want to say to sort of hook into this because my plan with this arc, so we're going to have one more story. That's, let's say, the Dwayne arc, because they're finding out what happened to their brother Dwayne. And then afterwards, we're going to have a series dealing with Rhodesia. So that's the Rhodesian conflict in Africa. There were a lot of Vietnam vets that went there to fight for the Rhodesians. So that's going to be another 3-book arc. But after that, I'm going to tackle some of that Latin America stuff. And then we really reach sort of the late 70s, early 80s. And, that's going to be sort of a paradigm shift within the comics. So that's sort of what people who dig the Napalm Brothers are going to have to look forward to.
So the characters are going to be like aging then, along with the book.
Of course, yeah. And I was even toying around with the fact that we're going to have relatives of the brothers maybe going into Fallujah during the Iraq years and sort of tackling that.
Yeah, I actually we need that more in comics. We need characters who actually age and then eventually because I do like a long story. Like I love Bone, and that's a huge book. But the thing is, it has an end. Like there's a character.
Well, writing wise, you can do a lot of stuff because you can work with flashbacks. Let's say I want to do a book that's completely set in the Vietnam War. A lot of people have been asking for that. I could do that, and I could just make it a flashback. You know what I mean? But the overall sort of timeline of these characters is that they age. They're gonna die. You know what I mean? They do get hangovers. They do have to go to the toilet, and all. To me, these characters are real. And I want to write them as real as possible, sort of within the frame that I set up. Of course, there's an absurdist element to what I'm doing with the Napalm Brothers, i.e. With the gorilla and all that stuff. But that sort of ties into the style. But overall, I really do want to address some of the things that these guys as veterans ran into, and sort of the general feel of what this era was about. You know what I mean? So yeah, to me, that's really important.
Yeah, that's another thing I like about it, is because it's not like it's pro veteran, but it's not completely anti-military, because I feel like we've gone just because there were bad people in the military, we've gotten to the point where all the military has to be painted in a bad light.
No, exactly. And the Vietnam War, I mean, it was unfortunate. Was it justified? I'm not sure. Do I think communism is a good regime? No, I don't. But the thing was, and I've sort of addressed this before, the Vietnamese, Ho Chi Minh, he was a nationalist. He wanted to make Vietnam sort of an autonomous country. And he went to the League of Nations, the precursor of the United Nations, and he was completely ignored. But then he hooked up with the commies, and the commies sort of promised to kick out the French. And yeah, that's kind of what happened. But Ho Chi Minh himself, he wasn't a ideological communist. He was a nationalist. So you see, these lines kind of blur. But yeah, was I against this war? No, I do think there was sort of a domino effect. But the domino effect was actually the march through the institutions of Western society, starting with Marcuse and the Frankfurter Schule that has taken over the media, politics, the judicial system. And this was the real catch-22. This was the real domino effect of sort of a nihilist, cultural Marxist ideology taking over in the West.
Yeah, I
Those
find
people.
I remember, I worked with a Vietnam vet before at one of the houses I work at, and my job requires you to kind of sit and do nothing while the individuals are asleep. So
Yeah.
we're just hanging out, and we were talking. He brings it. It's like, oh wow, you were in the military. He's like, and like I respect the military and stuff, even though I never served. He's like, oh, funny you say that. As soon as I came home, people called me baby killer.
Yeah, well, that's
Because,
in
like,
the comic. That's in the comic. That's what people called these guys, you know.
yeah,
And a
he
lot of
was.
these guys, they were just professionals going over there and really believing in the cause they were doing, and they actually believed in the whole hearts and minds thing. And yeah, it just turned out a little bit sour, you know. It turned out differently, unfortunately.
It's fucked up because like I was always I started out military history was what got me interested in pursuing that as a career path. So I studied a lot about World War II World War I and World War II in high school, and then even again in college, in American government classes and U.S. history. And I just always found it interesting that there was so little U.S. history on Vietnam. I mean, even the classes that did touch on it, it's like, they kind of glossed over a lot of things. And it's like, it's interesting because, I mean, pretty much every modern war, since World War II has been a conflict of like, limited interest. But it's always been there's an original cause that gets like blurred or obfuscated in the continuing conflict, and people, and by the time it ends, because people think of war as being short, but it's like, no, in reality, even Vietnam was several years. World War II lasted 10 years.
Exactly.
Was more. So
Yeah.
these conflicts, the Iraq War has been on for over a decade.
Well,
So-
basically, one of the main reasons I think, and I think you will agree with me, is that wars are over resources.
Yeah.
And they are sort of fought under the banner of ideology, but mostly they're about resources and the finite aspect of resources, I think. Yeah.
And that's the sad thing. It's like it often is. It starts out about or some in most cases there is a conflict that causes it, but then even if there is a good intention, it's like, oh, we're going to prevent further conflict, further bloodshed. It's like, oh well, you were there's resources that I'm sure they were aware of before the conflict started, and once you're there, it's like, oh well, now that we're here.
Talking about World War II, I want to show you guys. This is the title page. I haven't shown this to anyone yet, but this is the title page of book 2. So book 2 is called Swift, Silent, Deadly, and we actually have an introduction to the character of Krieger, who is the officer senior with the peak cap, and then we have a little scene of Stalingrad at the bottom of the Rattenkrieg, the tunnel war, where the Germans fought the Soviets in the tunnels with flamethrowers and all this badass shit. We've got
Holy crap.
rats. So this is a cool. I think this is a cool opening page to the book. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to have it in my hands. Yeah, I think.
Can you do a full-size poster of that cover, please?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Actually, that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can get a full. That's what I love about this. Is this the style of this is like poster art. You could take pretty much any page and hang it on a wall, and people would just assume it was Art Deco or just like a.
Well,
modern.
a lot of stuff, but of course you have a story to tell. You know what I mean. So I do have to get the sequential stuff in there, but I try to really cram in as a lot of sort of artfulness as I can. For instance, this page, the title page, the line work is not done with sort of ink, but it's done in pencil. So it's sort of softer. It has sort of a softer feel to it. You know what I mean? And then because it's sort of not really a flashback, but more sort of a memory. And then the actual comic book itself is done with the hard lines, with ink, and with all the primary colors and all that. So I do kind of try to look at that, And of course, my background is sort of from poster art. So
that's awesome. I I need a reason to get the large format printer up and running again. We've got that down in.
That's an that's a funny story of us trying to start our production company.
That's actually that's a different one. I'm talking. That's the scanner down here.
Yeah, you need the scanner. You need the scanner. You need an A3 scanner if you really want to. Go
we
from.
have it.
All I need for it is the server module. It was supposed to come with an imaging unit. I bought it at auction.
Okay. Yeah.
It skimped us on the imaging unit. So luckily, it's an advanced enough scanner that I can put I can pretty much just use a desktop. But I'm going overkill and instead using a whole server so that we can have it like on the network and have every computer connected to it. But it's an OSE DS60.
Okay.
It's very sad. This is a company from the Netherlands that went out of business or was bought by Canon. But it's like a gigantic scanner on a metal cabinet and wheels.
Well, that's what you need.
Yeah,
because then you can actually scan in the inkwork, and then you.
It's got a bed and a top sheet. I mean, it's got the bed is like 12 by 17. It's a huge bed, and then the feeder on top will take 500 pages with an attachment for more, and it'll scan in like under a minute. So it's like a printing press sized scanner.
Yeah. Are you trying to seduce me?
Oh man, there's actually something funny about that scanner. On the way over back home, we were having like this. It was just us in the car talking for about like a 2-3 hour drive, and we were going to this like theological debate, and I was pretty much saying like, I might believe in God, but he's kind of a dick and all this other stuff. And we couldn't get the scanner in the house. And I got really sarcastic and said, "Oh, Mike, I got an idea. Let's pray that God will help us get the scanner in the house." And this motherfucker goes across the street to a church. And just so happens the pastor was there that day. And he said, "Oh, I have guys that will come and help us lift it in the house." And I'm like, "You son of a goddamn
guys." I'm not even joking, man. The church across the street is like, they're like a Christian Napalm Brothers crew. I'm not even exaggerating. They're like a ragtag team of like former soldiers, ex-cons, former addicts. They have like everybody there, and it's just like
all my hobbies,
I was like, I need a crew of strong men, and the guy just claps. He's like, "All right, guys, I need like five buff dudes to go." And they just like assemble and follow me across the street.
See, that's what I mean. The Lord works in mysterious ways, and you shouldn't piss him off.
Yeah.
I thought for certain that this thing was going to be busted. That was my big fear. I was like, we're going to turn it on. Like we're going to get it out. The bed's I had it strapped. I was like, the bed's going to be cracked, or it's not going to power up. It turns on just fine. It's like a shell of the thing. It's got the screen and the bed, but we don't have like the thing that it stores the scans or allows us to connect it to the network. So
just thinking about that, Karen looking at me like she.
Well, I mentioned this before, but when you guys really get up and running, I'm going to do everything in my power to promote your stuff, and I'm also going to contribute some art if you want. And,
that would be great. It'd be I'd love your style to be like a cover that we could also have as a poster. That'd be so great. I just love the way, like you said, you did posters for a while, and you can tell that with your art. Like, especially like the covers are just phenomenal. I have the original printing here. I'm actually looking at it.
Well, the covers are all about composition and sort of, they don't have to necessarily be intricate, but it's all about composition. I think that really should grab your attention. And of course, then you have my pet peeve, where I think for comic book covers, everything that's on the cover should be in the comic. What I mean? That's really important. And I also think I like guest covers, but I think, let's say, for the main staple of comic books, the person who actually draws the content should also do the cover, unless there's a really good reason not to do it, like sort of maybe an anniversary issue or whatever. I'm really sort of a fundamentalist about that. I put the fun into fundamentalism,
Yeah, I kind of agree, but like, because I started collecting comic books like in the 90s. And I kind of jumped in the.
Well, that's what fucked up comics in the 90s.
Yeah,
because they had all the variant covers.
Variant cover. I was because you got to give me credit. I was a dumb kid with money, like in the early 2000s, late 90s. So I buy comics and I'm like, oh man, this is a variant cover. And I take it home and I read it a few weeks later and I just think, wait, I just bought the same book twice.
See, the thing is, what happened with the comic book industry in the 90s was you had these baseball card collectors. And for some reason, the baseball card collecting thing, it sort of collapsed. And then all these collectors, they migrated from baseball cards to covers, to comics. And the comic book industry tried to sort of hook into that by creating all these variants and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, with modern printing methods, there was just an abundance of all of these comics, so they weren't rare. Because that's what people don't realize when they collect stuff. It's only collectible and valuable when it's rare. So comics from the golden age, not many survived because they're actually a throwaway product. That's when
Right.
they become rare. And also the same thing with toys. And yeah, so basically the comic book the comic book industry fucked itself, and that's what happened.
That's
I
my
didn't
dream.
know about the baseball card thing. Like now I look back, like wow, that so many things make more sense. Why like so many like there used to be trading card shops specifically for baseball
But you
cards.
didn't
all
know
of a sudden-
that about the trading cards comic connection, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's why my first exposure to comic books, cartoons and games was sports cards and comics was what sold Pokemon cards, comic books, everything, and it was primarily a baseball card shop, originally. But that is honestly my dream for this, like the ultimate goal of making this network of indie creators is going one step further and having it so that these not just these comic book stores, but I would like even to see libraries have this capability.
Yeah.
Is if not doing it entirely in-house, having like a printer there capable of doing 90% of the printing and collating, and then all you got to do is staple the thing and pretty much making comics on demand. But if not having it 100% in-house, having a big enough network of independent print shops and actual like physical creators who have the capability of doing.
Hey, listen, are you connected to George Alexopoulos on Twitter?
Yeah, we used to follow each other. I think he goes back. He had to stop following so many customers or something.
Okay,
but
because if you want, I've been on his show and all that stuff. If you want, I can introduce you to him because he prints all of his stuff from home, and it's excellent stuff he makes.
I've shown Mike. I'm actually a huge fan of his. I have Mary Sue 1 and 2, and I have a print of his, and I have so much George stuff.
Okay,
He's the one who like got me. He's the one that
drop
showed
me a DM. Drop me a DM on Twitter with sort of the stuff you want to ask him, and I'll make the introduction to him. And you can talk to him directly.
Really cool. That would be really. He's a really cool dude.
Yeah.
It was actually Dell telling me about his setup like last year that inspired me to start doing this. And we have like I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I'm trying to make sure we have all the infrastructure before we launch, because my biggest fear is being unprepared to do something that we want to do or that we've told someone that we can do.
Yeah.
So
no, it all has to be ready, dude. It all has to be ready. You know what I mean?
But
for sure.
I think George showed me with. I got one of his books from the web comic he did called Problematic. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I got that book, and I actually like. I kind of and at some point I was like, oh, I hope this goes through. I hope I don't get screwed again. And it's like, oh, you're telling me that you just gave me. I got it in the mail, and I listened to a DM, and I'm like, oh, thanks for the book.
No, this dude's a pro, man. He's a pro, and that's sort of my outlook as well on making stuff for people. Is it has to be good, it has to be on time, and of course, stuff can happen. Like with COVID, distribution is a bit of a drag, especially overseas. But my part is going to be done when these books are supposed to be going out. You know what I mean?
That's all I ask. And as a comic book reader and fan, that's literally all I'm asking for. And it's like I've heard so many creators' excuses like, oh, sorry, guys, the printing shop didn't do the thing right. And it's like, well, could you?
They don't have any shame. They have no shame whatsoever. These people, they give you their hard-earned money, in economic troubled times. And you fuck them over by procrastinating, and spending more time on social media than actually creating the books. and then fucking up on materials and on shipping. And it's just a shit show. And these people should be truly, especially the pros, they should be truly ashamed of themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You think they would be, but instead they bring it back to like, I'm a victim. This is
Well,
not.
yeah, that's the narrative, and that's the drama carousel, and that's what gets them clicks and money. You know what I mean? But
I'm
really
so
seriously,
tired.
I spit on that shit, man. I spit on it.
I'm just so tired of like, and then it's like, if you go to say like, hey, could you stop being a dick on Twitter and fucking finish the book? That gets you up. That's like it gets like their fans angry. Like, oh, you don't have any like empathy. It's like, bruh, I gave you money for a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like I still like you as a person, but I was at one point your customer.
Well, that's the thing. What people don't realize, because now they see me sort of as a creator, but first and foremost, I'm a comic book enthusiast myself. You know what I mean? And I'm a collector myself. So I had this little beef with this guy called Midnight Cherry TV. He has a YouTube channel. He sort of he was in the Evanista camp, and then he had a fallout, and he started his own channel and sort of got some traction. He became anti-CG. But anyway, long story short, he got into a fight with Doug Garrett when I was still with GP. Because the Lone Wolf book was late. Well, the Lone Wolf book was late for various reasons, and Doug was really open about that. So I defended Doug against this cherry motherfucker, and now he's making it out to be that I'm just this another comic book pro grifting whatever. But it's all bullshit. Listen, I work 60 hours a week. You know what I mean? I have a family to feed. I have a wife and I have kids, and literally. Every spare minute I have, I put into these books, and I try to make them on time, and I try to make them quality, and it's ridiculous. But these guys, you know, these sort of sideline affiliated comic YouTube celebrities,
oh god,
you know, they're polluting the conversation, you know, and they're just in it for the clout.
Like that, oh crap! What's that one guy's name? I can't remember his name. There was someone, and I don't think a couple people don't like him, but I think he's pretty neat. He's a comic book reviewer whose name I feel bad because I cannot remember the dude's name. I've smoked.
Well, we need at least his name to talk about him. You know what I mean?
Give me a minute. He wrote Roylip, Thomas Roylip.
Oh, Roylip. Okay.
Reviews a book. That's a CG guy, and the surprise, he didn't like the book, and it was a review.
Yeah. You're talking about Liam Gray of he did a manga.
Yeah. The guy, like, you can't show my manga in your video, you dumb idiot. It's a review. Even if a review is bad, that's still someone talking about your product for free, and how you take that review shows me, a reader, how you handle criticism and how you're as a creator. Instead of taking criticism. He has his shit false flagged. He goes on a rampage. Yeah. He's just like.
No, I get it. And you know what? I thought the Liam Gray manga, it did look pretty good. I'm not sure how well it was written, but as a manga itself, I think it looked pretty good. But that whole false flagging thing, that's just bullshit. You know, that's the kind of stuff that ruins this community. You know, and sure, those SGW guys, Thomas Roll-Up and his brother, you know, they're pretty harsh. They make harsh comedy. That's how I see them. I think it's pretty intelligent, but all the gas chamber jokes and all that's not really my cup of tea. But I understand what they're doing, you know. And regardless of the fact if their comedy is harsh or not, you should never false flag anyone. You know, I'm so much against censorship. It's that's the rot in the community, you know. That's weak. That's bitch tactics.
He's not even against the edgy jokes. He's against the fact that they said this is not very good, and he's obviously scorned. So he's just throwing he's like, it reminds me of back in the day when people would post their art on DeviantArt, and there would be 101 comments saying how good it was with all these stupid emojis. Yeah. And one person would comment, your line art needs work. And so they would do everything they could to ruin that person's very existence on the planet because he actually gave helpful goddamn advice. Yeah. That's how I feel like these people grew up in those communities, never actually grew up, and just kind of went into making comic books.
Well, listen, artists are easy victims because a lot of artists are very sensitive, you know, and it's like a huge step to sort of step out with your art, and especially nowadays with the modern platforms, to a potential audience of millions. But yeah, I think there's long toes to be stepped on. personally, I don't have this problem because I don't care about anybody's opinion, and yeah, I'll just do what I do.
Yeah,
Do I change stuff? Yeah, but I change stuff because I think some stuff needs to be changed. For instance, Napalm 1, the lettering wasn't up to par. That's again my learning curve, and yeah, I changed that in book 2. So
I'm not looking forward to lettering. I'm that was always my hardest thing in comics, so I'm not looking forward to that at all.
no, I think it's all fun to do. The problem with self-publishing comics is that it all takes time. And listen,
Right.
when you're sort of an ex-pro with a nice budget in the bank and a nice crowdfund campaign going, you can take your time. But a working Joe, like all these most of these indie guys, yeah, just it's a strain to put the time in to these projects that's needed. You know what I mean? So yeah.
It really is, and that's why I feel like when it's your full. That's why I like George, because he's like, when you're doing this crowdfunding stuff and you've taken a considerable amount of money to make a book, you better be treating it like a job and working like shifts. Like, you don't just like wake up at noon and like do as much as you feel like and then spend the rest of the day getting high and going to Denny's. You don't fucking do that, because
Come on, don't lie, man.
Getting
We-
tacos and lap dances. Yeah.
Let's be honest. We Ubered the Denny's.
God damn it! Yeah, we did. We actually, but what I'm saying is, when you're working on something like as soon as I get off the stream, I'm going to be working on pages and storyboarding. Like, I'm going to be working on writing. Me and Mike are going to be like workshopping different characters with their backstories and shit. We're going to be looking at the websites things. We're going to be. It's not even just like making the comic itself. There's like all this other bips and bops you have to do. You have to figure out how you got to get a working scanner. You have to go drive down to goddamn Maryland to pick up a scanner.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things involved with it. So if you're not doing that every day and you're instead fucking around on and I'm even guilty of doing it myself, of just wasting time on Twitter. I recently just decided to just stop, at least until I get some more things done. I'm just going to not be like playing on Twitter all day.
No, I understand. And it sort of stemmed also from a certain creator that was DMing you nonstop, and that was weak conduct.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that was not.
guys, I sort of have to wrap this up. I'm sorry to be a little bit abrupt, but
It's cool.
I'm in a different
This
time zone.
has been a lot of fun.
I want to ask you guys one more thing. I want to thank you for being here. It was a lot of fun, both to KFC and to Mike. And like I said, I'm going to support your further endeavors. But
Thank you.
as a sort of closing statement, can you endorse Napalm Book 2 for me? Why should
Napalm
people buy
Book
Napalm
2.
Book 2?
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, we both not only have we bought for us, but we've also done Christmas shopping, and Mike's getting it for his nephew, and I'm getting the Napalm 1 and 2 thing for my little brother when it comes out.
Cool stuff.
Absolutely. So I forget what the tiers are called because I forgot.
I think I get my paycheck at midnight, so I'm looking forward.
Yeah, I'll probably even see if we can upgrade my thing, because I'm looking at that poster like, ooh,
Cool
I
stuff.
need that in my life right now.
Yeah.
You guys
Actually,
should also check out the t-shirts that are on Crypto Fashion.
Oh
And,
shit! What?
Yeah, they're pretty cool. Maybe Hero J can
We-
drop a link to the Crypto Fashion stuff, because those
Nice.
are badass. I actually bought a couple myself.
this isn't so much a plug as we're trying, in addition to the scanner, I've got a large format printer that's still down in Maryland. I got to bring that back up here, but that's just a challenge. At some point, I'd like to get some designs. I want to do some, like, you send us a design, we print it for you, just send it to you.
Yeah,
you
that's
pay
cool.
ship-
I'll make a design for you. I'll make a design for you guys, man, for sure. I'll make something
That would
cool.
be awesome. Just want to
Hey,
say,
on that note, I'm going to end the broadcast and stick around, Mike and KFC, because we're going to do a little after broadcast talk. But
Cool.
that was it for the Six Skill Combat channel today. I hope you guys all back this comic, and to everybody else, peace out.
all right.